I don't know why that night still bothers me so much. Maybe because I still live in the same house. Maybe because no matter how many times I tell myself it's over, I still see the shape of that man every time I drive home after dark. It was Halloween night, 2 years ago. I had just turned 26, working late shifts at a small printing shop on the east side of town. I remember leaving work that night with the usual tired ache behind my eyes. The kind that comes after hours of staring at screens and listening to the hum of the printer. I wasn't planning to do anything special for Halloween. I'm not really a party guy anymore. My friends were out drinking, posting pictures in their costumes. Me? I just wanted to go home, heat up some leftover pizza, and maybe fall asleep to some old horror movie reruns. It was 11:42 p.m. when I turned onto my street. I remember that time exactly because my dashboard clock had this faint orange glow that I stared at while waiting at the stop sign. My neighborhood is quiet, a small cul-de-sac lined with identical mailboxes and porch lights. It's one of those places where people still wave at each other when taking out the trash. That night, though, it was silent. Too silent. No porch lights, no kids, not even the usual barking from the dog across the street. Just the sound of my tires on the asphalt and the faint hum of the engine. I turned into my driveway, and that's when I noticed it. Someone was standing near my mailbox. At first, I thought it was a decoration. Maybe some leftover Halloween prop a neighbor had stuck there as a prank. But when I flicked on my high beams, the figure moved. He stepped just slightly to the left, as if the light bothered him. And that's when I realized it wasn't a prop. He was wearing a plain black hoodie with the hood up and a white plastic mask that caught the light in this weird glossy way. The kind of mask you'd find in a dollar store. Blank, featureless, no expression at all. He didn't say anything, didn't even flinch. Just stood there facing my car, motionless. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, frozen. Every logical thought in my head was fighting with the fear building in my chest. I finally managed to flick my headlights off, and instantly, he was gone, just like that. No sound, no movement, no footsteps. The only thing left was the faint swing of the mailbox door, creaking in the cold air. I waited a good minute before getting out. My phone flashlight felt ridiculously small against all that darkness. I walked toward the mailbox slowly, scanning the street. No cars, no people, just wind. The air smelled faintly like damp leaves and something metallic, like rust or blood. When I got to the mailbox, I noticed the door was still open. Inside, there was just one folded piece of paper. It was clean, not crumpled, not wet, just placed there. I pulled it out, unfolded it, and read the message written in small, neat handwriting. "You're late tonight." I can't explain the feeling that hit me. It wasn't shock. It was this deep, crawling dread that made my stomach twist. I turned around instantly, shining the flashlight across the yards, down the street, even up the trees. Nothing. Every house around me was dark. I ran back inside, locked the door, and checked every window. Twice. Then I sat in the living room with all the lights on, clutching my phone, waiting for something, anything, to happen. But it didn't. Not that night anyway. The next morning I went outside. The paper was gone. The mailbox was empty. But there were footprints. 2 sets. One leading to the box, one leading away. They stopped halfway down the street, right where the asphalt meets the woods. After that, just grass. I installed a security camera that same day, one facing the mailbox, another pointing down the driveway. For a few nights, nothing happened. I tried to tell myself it was just a prank, maybe some teenager trying to mess with people on Halloween. But then, on November 4th, around 2 a.m., I got a motion alert on my phone. Half asleep, I opened the live feed. There he was, standing in the same spot by the mailbox. Same mask, same still posture. Only this time, he was closer, about 5 feet closer, almost in the light of my driveway. He didn't move for 7 minutes straight, not even a tilt of the head. Then slowly he turned toward the camera, like he knew I was watching, and started walking forward. I sat up in bed, heart racing, and switched to the other camera feed. But it was black. The second camera had gone offline. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and called the police while staring at the monitor. When they arrived, there was no one outside. No footprints, no sign of entry, nothing. The officer asked if I could show him the footage. When I opened the files, they were gone. Everything from that night had been wiped clean. Only recordings from earlier in the week remained. I replaced the cameras the next day, got better ones, set them to auto backup online. But still, every time I checked, there were gaps, small ones, missing minutes between 1:55 and 2:10 a.m., like someone was editing the footage remotely. That same week, I started noticing other things. The smell of cigarette smoke near my back door, even though I don't smoke. My garbage bins tipped over, but only mine, not the neighbors. And once I found a single muddy footprint on my back porch, pointing toward the house. I started parking farther up the street, walking the last few steps home in the dark, just to keep an eye out before approaching my driveway. Then one night, about a week after the police visit, I saw him again. I was coming home late, another closing shift. The street was empty, but when my headlights swept over the front lawn, I caught a glimpse of something behind the bushes. That same white mask. It was barely visible, but I saw the reflection. Those two hollow eye holes shining back at me. I froze, hands trembling on the wheel. Then, it moved, slowly, not toward me, not away, just shifting, watching. I didn't get out. I reversed down the street, parked 2 houses away, and sat there for over half an hour. When I finally gathered the courage to walk back, he was gone again. But the mailbox door was open, and inside another note. This one said, "Don't look for me." The handwriting was the same. I moved out a month later, stayed with my cousin across town until I found another place. But after a while, I convinced myself to come back, to not let fear drive me out of my own home. Now, 2 years later, I still live here. The cameras are newer, the lights are brighter. I check that mailbox every single morning. Most days it's empty. But every Halloween night since, I find the same footprints. 2 sets, leading to the mailbox, stopping right at the edge of my driveway. And once, just once, I found a single cigarette butt resting on top of the mailbox, still warm. I used to deliver food, nothing fancy, just a side gig to keep me afloat while figuring out what I wanted to do after high school. It wasn't the best job, but it paid enough for gas and late-night meals. Halloween night was usually one of the busiest shifts of the year. People ordering pizza, burgers, anything that didn't require cooking before heading out to parties. Most drivers hated working that night. I didn't mind it. The streets looked kind of beautiful. The mix of costumes, porch lights, and kids laughing in the distance. But that Halloween, that one order changed everything. It came in around 10:15 p.m. I remember it clearly because I was ready to clock out. I had already turned off the delivery app when my manager called me directly. "Hey man, one last drop. Real close. Guy paid extra for a late night delivery. I'll double your tip if you take it easy money," I thought. The address was handwritten on a sticky note. 189 Old Pine Route. First house on the left with the porch lights on. That name, an Old Pine Route, didn't sound familiar. And when I typed it into my GPS, nothing came up. Just a blank patch between 2 county roads. I almost called back to tell him no, but I needed the cash. And besides, what could really go wrong? It was late, the air was cold, and most houses I passed were either dark or covered in fake spiderwebs. The streets got quieter the farther I drove. By the time I reached the outskirts of town, there were no streetlights, just my headlights carving through the trees. After about 15 minutes, I saw an old gas station up ahead. Boarded up, half the sign missing. The kind of place you could tell had been abandoned for years. According to the note, I had to follow the dirt road behind it, so I turned onto the path, my tires crunching over gravel and broken glass. It was narrow, just wide enough for one car, with trees pressing in from both sides. For a while, I thought maybe I'd taken a wrong turn. Then through the branches, I saw a faint light. A small house appeared. 2 stories, weathered wood siding, and a flickering porch light. just like the note said. No cars in the driveway, no decorations, just that single struggling bulb casting a dull yellow glow. I parked, grabbed the paper bag from the passenger seat, and stepped out. The night air was freezing, filled with the smell of wet earth and old pine needles. I climbed the porch steps, the wood creaking under my shoes, knocked once. The door opened, just a few inches, like someone had left it unlatched. Hello? I called out. Delivery for James? No answer, just a faint buzzing sound, static maybe, coming from somewhere inside. I peered through the crack. The hallway beyond was dimly lit by the blue glow of a TV. I could see a staircase in the corner of a couch, but no people. Still thinking it was some weird mix-up, I set the bag down by the door, stepped back, and waited. That's when I noticed the receipt taped to the top of the food box. It wasn't from our restaurant, it was from another place entirely, a diner called Maple's Grill, and the date on it was October 31st, 1998, 24 years ago. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old bag someone reused. Maybe the customer wanted to mess around with the delivery guy. But as I stared at that date, I heard something. Footsteps, slow, heavy, and coming from upstairs. Each step groaned like someone walking across old wood in thick boots. Then it stopped, right above the doorway. "Hello," I said again, my voice shaking a little. "I'm just dropping the food. You can grab it anytime." Silence. I turned to go back to my car, but a soft thump echoed behind me. When I glanced over my shoulder, the bag was gone. I hadn't heard anyone open the door, hadn't heard it close. It had just disappeared. I didn't stick around. I ran down those steps and got in my car. As I backed out, I looked up at the house again and saw the porch light flicker once, twice, then go completely dark. The only light left came from a single upstairs window, and for a split second, I thought I saw someone standing there, not moving, just watching. By the time I hit the main road, my hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped the steering wheel. I got back to the restaurant around 11 p.m. My manager was outside locking up. I told him what happened. The house, the note, everything. He laughed at first, said maybe I went to the wrong address. When I handed him the sticky note, he frowned. "Dude, I never wrote that. That's not my handwriting." We went inside to check the system. There was no record of that order. No James, no payment, no tip, nothing. I didn't sleep that night. Every time a car passed outside my apartment, I expected to see that same flickering porch light through the window. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I went online, tried searching for Old Pine Route. Nothing official came up, but in a local forum, someone mentioned it used to be a service road back in the 90s, before a storm washed out the bridge at the end. They said a few houses out there were condemned after that, including one that had burned down in October 1998. No one was supposed to live there anymore. That part stuck in my head. I couldn't shake it. So a week later, during daylight, I drove back. The gas station was still there, the sign even more broken now. But when I turned onto the dirt road, I almost thought I had the wrong place. There was no house, just an empty clearing, overgrown weeds, scattered stones, and what looked like the remains of a foundation. No mailbox, no porch, no flickering light. I got out of the car and walked around. It was dead quiet, not even birds. Then I saw something sticking out of the ground near where the porch would have been, a metal mailbox post, and taped to it, a yellowed piece of paper. It was the receipt, the same one from 1998, except now someone had written something new on the back in shaky pencil. "Thank you for coming back." That was the last time I ever drove out that way. I quit the job soon after. I couldn't even look at wooded roads without getting that same cold feeling in my chest. Months later, I mentioned it to a retired cop who used to live near that area. He said the house belonged to a man named James Harrow. Lived alone, used to order food every Friday night. In 1998, a kitchen fire broke out. They never found the body. He said that place was torn down in the early 2000s. But I saw it. I was there. The lights were on. The door opened. The food disappeared. Every now and then, when I think back to that night, I remember the sound of footsteps, that slow, heavy walk across the upstairs floor, like someone waiting for me to come inside. And the weirdest part? I still have the delivery app on my phone. Every year on October 31st, at exactly 10:15 p.m., I get a blank order request. No address, no customer name, just one word in the notes section: hungry. I stopped taking orders after that, but sometimes when I drive by the woods at night, I swear I still see that porch light. Still on. It's been 2 years since it happened. 2 years, and I still haven't answered my door on Halloween night. People always laugh when I tell them that. They think it's some weird superstition or that I'm just trying to avoid handing out candy. But the truth is, I can't explain what I saw that night, and part of me doesn't want to. It was October 31st, a little after 11:30 p.m. The trick-or-treaters had come and gone. I remember because the last group, 2 little kids dressed as vampires, had said I gave them too much candy. I laughed, shut the door, and turned off the porch light. I was living alone then, small rental house, quiet neighborhood, the kind where you can hear the wind moving through trees at night. I'd made a habit of staying in for Halloween. Hot chocolate, a couple horror movies, and whatever snacks were left after the kids finished. That night was no different, until someone knocked. It wasn't loud, just 3 soft, slow knocks. At first I ignored it, figured it was someone at the wrong house, or maybe a late straggler. But after a few seconds, the knocks came again. The same rhythm, 3 slow taps. I sighed, grabbed the candy bowl, and went to the door. When I opened it, there was a girl standing there, maybe 12 or 13. She wore a white lace dress that looked old, like something from a vintage shop. Her hair was tied back with a ribbon, her hands folded neatly in front of her. It wasn't a costume, at least not one I'd ever seen. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Her face was pale, her expression blank. Not shy, not scared, just empty. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. They were a little unfocused, like she wasn't seeing me, but something behind me. I forced a smile. "Hey there! You're out late, huh? You want some candy?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "Can I come in?" It caught me off guard. I said, where are your parents?" She blinked slowly, then repeated, "Can I come in?" There was something about the way she said it. The tone wasn't pleading, it was expectant, like she already knew the answer. I took a small step back. "Sorry, it's really late. Maybe you should head home, okay?" She didn't move, didn't react, just stood there, eyes fixed on me. Then after what felt like forever, she tilted her head slightly and said something that froze my blood. "You let me in last year." I remember feeling the air leave my lungs. Last year, I'd never seen her before. I forced a laugh, trying to break the tension. "I think you've got the wrong house, sweetheart." She looked at me for a few seconds longer, then turned around and walked down the driveway. Her steps were slow, measured. The sound of her shoes on the gravel echoed long after she disappeared into the darkness. I shut the door, locked it, and stood there for a long time, just listening. No footsteps, no car, nothing. When I finally checked the time, it was 11:39 p.m., 9 minutes before midnight. I sat on the couch for a while, telling myself it was just a weird prank. Maybe some teenager trying to freak out the neighbors. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. A few minutes later, I decided to check the doorbell camera, just to prove to myself she'd really been there. But when I opened the app, the footage jumped. There was a blank gap between 11:25 and 11:40 p.m. Everything else that night had recorded fine, but not that. I replayed it over and over, scrolling through the empty black space, waiting for a flicker of movement or sound. Nothing. That's when I noticed something outside the window. The faint outline of someone standing near the streetlight across from my house. A small figure, still as stone. I turned off the lights, crouched by the curtain, and watched, It looked like her. Same dress, same shape. She stood there for maybe 10 minutes, just staring toward the house. Then she slowly turned her head and looked directly at my window. Even from that distance, I swear she saw me. Then she started walking again, not toward me this time, but across the street, toward the woods. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every sound made me flinch. Every passing car made my heart race. By morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined half of it. That exhaustion and paranoia had gotten the better of me, until I opened the front door. Lying on the porch was a small, faded photograph. It was old, the edges worn, colors almost gone. The photo showed my house, same porch, same window, and standing by the door was the same girl from last night. But the date printed in the corner said, October 31st, 1997. 25 years earlier. I must have stood there for 10 minutes, staring at that date. When I finally looked up, I noticed something else. Faint, muddy footprints on the porch steps. Small, like a child's. But they didn't lead away. They just stopped halfway. I called the police. The officer who came by was polite but confused. He said no one matching that description had been reported missing or seen in the neighborhood. When I showed him the photograph, he studied it quietly for a few seconds, then asked where I got it. I told him it was on my porch that morning. He looked at me carefully, the kind of look that makes you feel like you've said too much, then folded the photo and said he'd look into it. He never came back. Weeks passed. I started leaving my porch light on every night, checked the locks twice before bed, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Sometimes I'd wake up around midnight and swear I heard faint knocking again. Soft, rhythmic taps. Other times I'd look outside and see small smudges on the glass near the bottom of the front window, like someone had pressed their fingers there. I tried to move on. I even got a new doorbell camera. This one recorded everything, 24/7. The following Halloween I didn't decorate, didn't even buy candy. I turned off the lights early, sat in silence trying to make it through the night. But at 11:31 p.m., it happened again. 3 soft knocks. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. Another knock, louder this time. Then a voice, faint, childlike. "Can I come in?" It was her voice. I knew it. I stared at the door from across the room. The candy bowl I'd left on the shelf the year before was still there. And for some reason, I swear I could hear the wrapper rustling. I grabbed my phone, opened the doorbell camera app, and hit live view. Black screen, not static, not an error. Just total darkness, like the lens had been covered. Then a faint image started forming, a small white shape at the edge of the porch. The girl. But this time, she wasn't facing the door. She was facing the camera, her head tilted slightly, like she was trying to see through it. And then, right before the screen cut out, her lips moved. I couldn't hear what she said, but I could read it. "You let me in." The feed went black. I sat there for hours, frozen in my chair, waiting for the knocks to start again. They never did. The next morning, I opened the door carefully. The porch was empty, but taped to the wall beside the frame was that same photograph again. Only now I was in it, standing in the doorway, looking out. No memory of that. None. Since then, every Halloween night, the same thing happens. Between 11:30 and midnight, I hear the 3 knocks. Sometimes they're faint, like the sound of wind brushing against the door. Other times they're louder, closer. I don't check the camera anymore. I don't answer the door. But last year, when I woke up the next morning, I noticed something new. On the glass of my front window, someone had written a message with their fingertip. Just one word. Soon. I used to think Halloween was just about costumes and candy. Now I know better. Some people never stop trick-or-treating.